Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, friends, wherever you are. Hope you're having a wonderful day. I'm here with one of my favorite humans.
You
What
want to
am I
start?
going to call him? I call him Chris because I just love the name Chris, but he's also known as Rice Crypto from the Rice Crypto YouTube channel. And he's got some great videos. He covers all sorts. Maybe you'd like to do a bit of an intro yourself there, my friend.
Yeah, no, I'm kind of all over the place. Missy, I appreciate you inviting me on Triggered Happy Friends. Sorry we couldn't do this before, but I'm glad that we're doing it now. I really like what you're starting with this channel, this idea of talking about mental health and things that help us to cope with today's world, because I think it's really important. And it's definitely something that I think that lacks within the overall community, especially within like the freedom movement, even in the cryptocurrency space. But yeah, just to kind of quickly describe who I am a content creator and a journalist, and have just recently become a fighter for freedom. And my YouTube channel, my channel is called Rice Crypto. My name is Chris Rice. Rice Crypto is a brand. On the channel, I have 3 separate shows. It separates the audience that I have, but some of the audience likes all the different material or crossover stuff. So I have the Rice Crypto show, which covers crypto and blockchain and technology. And then I also have the Rice Report, which is about politics and economics. And then Stranger Than Fiction is the show that I deal with, where I'm talking about things that some people might consider to be conspiracy theory, things that are not proven, hidden history kind of related things. That was my branch out, because when I first started my channel a couple years ago, it was mainly dealing with crypto and economics and a little bit of politics. And about 4.5 months ago, I started branching out my content and I started restructuring my channel. And that's when I began Stranger Than Fiction. And one of the first things I started covering with Stranger Than Fiction was Joseph Gregory Howlett, which is kind of how we became somewhat connected. So even though I've kind of come out talk in regards to that situation with Howlett, come out trying to explain a lot of his inconsistencies and things that don't appear to be true, the one thing that I am thankful for is it led me down a path that I may not have gone down before, or it kind of sped up the process of me going down that path. It's connected me with a great deal of people that are awesome people. It helped me to look into my own lineage and genealogy. So I don't try to talk completely negative about Greg Howlett. You know, I don't really appreciate him calling himself Christ. And the bloodline claims don't seem to be legit. But aside from that, getting people to realize that the royal family is not legitimate, and kind of getting people to think outside the box, and even helping me on my path, you know, I've got to be appreciative of that. And I've even suggested to him, since he's got such a great imagination, to go into writing like fiction books. You know, I figured he could write a book series that would blow something like Game of Thrones away, you know, because he's got such a wild imagination. So, but that's kind of me in a nutshell. You can find me on YouTube at Rice Crypto. I'm on Library as well. I have a Patreon channel where I post up exclusive content. I have an audio podcast that people can find under Rice Radio. And I'm kind of spread out all over the place. You can find me on social media pretty much everywhere at Rice Crypto. And the idea is just to kind of get my messages, my videos, my content out on as many platforms, because I've been dealing with a lot of censorship and shadow banning pretty much since I've started my channel. So I hope that kind of answers that for you.
Wow, thank you very much. I love the way you research. I love the way you question everything, and I love some of the work you're doing. Well, all the work you're doing, you know, I've invested in a little bit of crypto myself, you know, so that I always find that a little bit interesting, but not so much because I don't really understand it, but that's okay. You know?
Well, you know what's funny? You say that it's funny you say that you don't understand it, and I get that, because it's a technology that hasn't been really simplified for the general everyday person. But since I started my channel with that being one of the main focuses, since I branched out and started going down these very, very interesting rabbit holes, some of that and I know we'll talk about it, some of that can have like take its toll on me mentally and physically, just a combination. And so when I get to go back and do cryptocurrency videos, it's kind of like I don't have to think. I can just kind of do something I enjoy without having to put the same kind of energy that I put into researching and trying to establish truth, if that makes sense.
Yeah, well, I mean, at the end of the day, that's why we're here. It's all about the mental health and the mental health of everybody in general right now, you know. Obviously the people who are fast asleep and don't really know what's going on in the world, they just, I don't know how they can bear what's going on. You know, if I had to read mainstream media and try and live by that, I would be the most confused, suicidal person in the world. I wouldn't know what was going on, and things would be pretty horrific. But let's be honest here, I don't think this channel is going to be drawing many people like that. You know, that was my intention in the beginning, was to kind of do service to all, but inevitably it's not going to happen. And at the end of the day, I think we're a little bit more traumatized in that we know things, and we've seen things that we shouldn't know and things that we shouldn't have seen. And we kind of got a little bit numb to it, or you could call us cognitively dissonant if you want. You know, sometimes I used to call it like cognitively numb. You know, like literally you could show me anything and I'll be like, okay, yeah, no, it's bad, but you know, and I'd feel kind of undisturbed by it. And I did see once a really horrifically disturbing video, and I looked at it as if it wasn't real, and I kind of moved on with my life. A couple of days later, I was listening to YouTube, and it, you know, my song expired, and it went on its little YouTube tangent like it does, playing you things that you've listened to before, something similar. And I call it YouTube roulette, and it always kind of hits me whenever I'm feeling like I need to dance. They'll give me dance music, but if I feel like I need to cry, they'll give me sad music. And
the YouTube algorithm for you. I mean, it's supposed to learn from what kind of stuff, the videos you watch, how you search for videos, what kind of channels that you're kind of overall.
It's not mean to know what mood you're in, okay?
It's supposed to try to predict. That's the idea of the YouTube algorithm.
I've got a Google Pixel, okay? It's reading my messages. It can see what I'm telling my friends I'm having a tough time, and then it will just come and hit me,
Wouldn't that be great if we could turn this AI into some sort of a therapist as well?
Well, you know, I think it's doing it already. Honestly, for me personally, my YouTube roulette, like every single time, if I'm feeling like excited about things and uplifted, I will get like dance tune after dance tune and tunes I can sing and shake myself around while I'm cooking dinner. But then on days where I'm feeling all stormy and all triggered, and you know, YouTube will hit me with some crackers, and I'll think like, start playing me like dead people songs, and I'll find myself on the kitchen floor sobbing my heart out, and I'm like, what did I do to deserve this?
It's funny you mentioned music though, because music is, you know, it's very therapeutic. It's I was a musician for quite some time and still kind of dabble around a little bit. I do vocals, and but sometimes I as much as I love music, it's been such a huge part of my life that I do like a lot of silence as well. But it's interesting, the different things that you can find that could help shift your mood or take you out of a certain zone. Like if I'm feeling kind of that down, angry, kind of irritated feeling, I'll try to play happier music. I'll try to do the meditation thing for a little bit, but when I'm listening to music, I'll try to listen to like some reggae or some different kind of electronic, like EDM. I definitely don't try to listen to anything like metal. I'm a big metal fan, but I wouldn't listen to any metal when I'm trying to not be aggravated, because it tends to fuel the fire per se.
Yes. I can't imagine that getting you very kind of feeling therapeutic and chilled out. But I think what I've been turning to a lot this year is Schumann's resonance, actually. I just, you know, you'll find like an 8-hour video on YouTube, and healing frequency, or what frequency, whichever frequency, you know, like I choose the one that's got the prettiest picture and I hit play, and you just have that going on, especially when I'm feeling like everything's just getting on top of me. that is what I turn to. And recently, my daughter was told some scary stories by a neighbor's child and decided that she was scared of the dark. So I have been putting Schumann's Resonance on YouTube on her TV at night, and it provides a bit of extra light, and she absolutely loves it. And literally a couple of days, and it all seems to have, she doesn't even ask for me to put the music on anymore. And last night I asked her, I said, do you want your music on? She said, yes, please. And off she went to sleep, no trouble. I mean, she was told there was a hand coming out of a toilet. She was nervous to go to the toilet. She thought there was something hiding behind the shower curtain.
That kind of reminds me of when the Slender Man thing, I don't know if it happened in the UK as it did here, but it just became like this folklore, and everybody was talking about this Slender Man, and it was
no, don't, I won't sleep tonight. I'm such a ninny. So
they ended up making a movie out of the whole thing, and it's not just a recent thing, it goes back in history. But as far as there's a word for, I can't think of it offhand, when it's like a folklore, but there's a modern term for it. But exactly. That was one of those things, and
that word either.
It had the same effect on like my daughter at the time, and other children, my other friends' children that I knew that were scared because of Slender Man. It's normal. It's the typical boogeyman thing. What's interesting about that though is there's at some point, and how old is your daughter? She's
just turned 7.
Okay, I was gonna say, like, from what I'm understanding, the age 7 is a very important number for a child, because something around the age 7, whether it's a little before or a little after or during the 7s,
between 6 and 8, I believe,
something happens in the brain like that kind of closes up. Where a mutual friend of ours, V, we were talking about this, just a child's brain. A child's brain is kind of the way she explained it was in a theta mode up until that point. And then
connected to source, just like
right,
trusts everything. And
then right now she's kind of in that mode where she trusts everything. She gets scared easily.
No, she doesn't anymore.
Something's going to happen. Like if it hasn't already happened, she's just like, it's going to be like, that's not real, mommy. I don't know what you're talking about.
Something's closed. It happened last year, and she trusts me, but she's also got a million questions as to how I could be wrong. So things have got a little bit more complicated, but it's all in a day's work, It's
a beautiful thing when you think about that, though, how a child thinks with the capacity that, well, no capacity. It's no time, no space, no nothing exists, just this here and now. And children are so in the moment, and it's since having that conversation, I'll ponder periodically, like, is it because even in a lot of spiritual teachings, even like Yeshua, Jesus, and a lot of other spiritual teachers talk about becoming like a child again. And I didn't understand it. Now that I've kind of gotten a little bit more insight in things, it's becoming like a child is when we were the closest to source. And like you said, and it, and we don't think the way that we do now. Now we're constrained by all these different things that we've constructed,
and
like
experiences,
time and space and all that. Like kids, So as an adult, when I get to have those conversations or do something where I get lost, and then I'm reading a book or whatever the situation might be, having a conversation with somebody, and I forget about time. And I forget that I have other things going on, that all that matters, the only thing that matters is that right there, what's going on. And then you kind of like, for me, I kind of look up and I'm like, wow, it's like an hour, 2, 3 hours just went by. I talked to V for 4 hours. It was kind of one of those situations. It's like, after all that time went by, it was just like, wow, how did all this time go by me without me realizing it? But those are those precious moments in life that we should be seeking.
Live for those moments, dude. I absolutely live for those magical moments. But they happen all the time, I mean, I can have a conversation with a person and I can literally fall into a time warp, and like 4 hours later, we're like, how did 4 hours pass? Like,
but you couldn't do it if you were thinking about it.
No,
if you had premeditated that this is what
not
I'm
some
going
of
to
it.
do, right? It has to happen naturally without
It's
you
not a
being aware,
plan, you
and you don't
know.
even realize it until after the fact. You got so lost in the fact that you don't realize till afterwards, till after you snap out of it, and you're like, damn, like I just was on the phone for 4 hours. Like I don't do that.
Well,
Like
I
I
mean,
try not.
sometimes
You know me.
we'll have a quick chat on the phone, and I feel like I've been speaking to you for 10 minutes, and I get off the phone and it says 58 minutes. I'm like, how did an hour of my life just
Yeah,
disappear?
we get on tangents, and then I do that with a lot of people, and then I've got to do videos, and like this right here would be my 6th recording this week, and I'm doing something in a couple hours, which will be my 7th recording, but that'll be on my channel. So it's it's
You're one
crazy.
of the
That's
hardest persons to nail down. I mean,
what I
even a
call it.
private, personal conversation with you has to be
I
planned.
don't think I think I used to joke around saying that I'm an alien imitating the behavior of a human being. But I definitely feel like I'm imitating the behavior of a human being. Like I feel like I'm not like other people.
I think
Not
you're
that I'm
doing well.
supposed
You got me fooled anyway.
to.
I do call you one of my favorite humans, so
If a
maybe I
reptile
need to
tongue
start
comes out of
calling
my
you my
mouth, just
favorite
don't be
alien.
surprised. Don't be surprised if a reptile tongue comes out.
Stop it. Oh my gosh.
I don't know. I just think it's so hilarious.
Look,
Somebody might
so
get that joke.
let me tell you something. What inspired me to bring you onto my show? I was listening to a YouTube video you did with Stan Your Man, and there was somebody else, but you publicly admitted that you hadn't dealt with trolls very well and that you'd blocked them or something like that. And the things you said in the process of revealing this information kind of hit a chord with me, and I was like, you know, that's just another person that I really need to sit down with and have a conversation about feelings. I mean, nobody wants to talk about feelings. Let's be serious now.
Oh, I do. I mean,
Nobody wants to
I
talk
did,
about
you know.
feelings.
Now, with that situation, it wasn't that I have a problem with dealing with trolls. I have a problem with certain individuals that take things too far. Just as far as being disrespectful, harassing other people who comment on videos, not just making it between myself and them, adding other people into the equation, attacking other people's comments. I had made a choice. It was like 2 or 3 people. It was right when I started doing those videos explaining the discrepancies in Greg Howlett. And I was getting a lot of hate, lost a lot of subscribers while gaining subscribers. But what happened was just after a certain point where I was like really trying to tell people, chill out, blah, blah, blah. Like just if I need to, I'll block you. And they just wanted to continue. So I blocked them and I told Stan about it. And this is the thing I like about Stan. And this is what you should have with anybody who's your friend. People should be help keeping you in check, like checks and balances. And we should be uplifting one another and helping each other to improve. If you don't have somebody in your life that's not doing that or doing the opposite, then you don't need to have people like that in your life. Because what Stan made me realize is I was a hypocrite. And it took a minute for it to kind of, soak in. But I've gotten older. I'm more open-minded. I don't mind admitting when I'm wrong and learning from my mistakes. And what I was a hypocrite about is because I'm talking about here in the United States, the First Amendment, freedom of speech, freedom of press, and how it's important that we have freedom of speech and that we need to defend this like tooth and nail. Like we can't let this go. Like it's becoming a problem. And if we don't start doing something about it, then we're going to start losing our opportunity to be able to speak freely. We're going to lose freedom of press, and that also could include freedom of religion. And then here I am preaching freedom of speech and blocking people.
I think at the same time, whilst freedom of speech is so vital and important, there's also freedom of choice. And if there are people who are just, I mean, I've had them on Twitter, I've been through the whole journey on Twitter, learning how to manage it and just actually learning sometimes that you just step out and just don't even get involved. So I've
Now,
also, I've,
you may know the person that I had the biggest problem with, or you may be familiar with the account because it's somebody that, I don't know, worships Greg and hates him at the same time. It's Catalyst Productions. It's a fake
no,
account.
not familiar with me.
A lot of people have been having problems with this person, and I think that somebody said her name is Sharon Ward. So she's been kind of stalking and trolling, and
Bit of an
I ended
inconvenient
up,
surname.
I think it's Sharon Ward. I think I'm not 100% sure, but yeah, that I don't think there's any relation to Charlie.
No, not. It's just inconvenient.
But it's a very, very odd coincidence. Now what I told people on that same episode was I'm going to unblock those people that I blocked because I was a hypocrite for blocking people when I'm promoting freedom of speech. But I said at the same time, I will tell you, you need to be respectful, that there are other ways of saying what you need to say without being a complete rude, inconsiderate person. You can change up your words. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. And you can get your point across without being vulgar and offending other people and attacking other people. And so I said that. And just the person wanted to continue like really being judgmental, rude, like completely rude, like just saying things as far as language that just like, and I have a pretty foul mouth, and this is just like, it was just absurd. So I ended up having to block the person again. And that's the only person that I have blocked on my YouTube channel. And I really don't like the idea of doing it, but I gave the person like so many opportunities just to be respectful and just treat people, and because I can call somebody out without having to say, like, I love M. M's a great dude, but M has a problem obsessing over Howlett. And I've told him that. And Ward and Mahoney, like, he's a great researcher. It would be good for him to start researching and covering other things, because I would like to see his skills be utilized for something other than Greg, Charlie, and Mahoney.
Yes. Wow.
So, I mean, there's nothing wrong, I think, with trying to let people know what you think that may be unhealthy in their life and trying to help point out things. But at the same time, you're going to have to be open to criticism too. You can't be the person sitting there telling everybody how things should or shouldn't be, but not be open to the same thing yourself. So I try to make my life as transparent as possible. And a lot of people either really like this or really hate this, because it puts a mirror to the people's faces. I keep it as real as possible. If I make a mistake, I'll come out and say I made a mistake. I did a video where I let my anger and passion coming through, and some people saw it and was like, you were justified in what you said and did, and I didn't take any offense or think anything negative about it. And then other people were like, you went a little too far. And just for myself, it wasn't for anybody else, just for myself, I'm on this path of change. And when I do something that I'm disappointed with, instead of hiding it or pretending it didn't happen, I admit it, and I try to even talk about it publicly and hold myself accountable to it and move forward.
Yes, I'm all
I
about
told you
this.
last Saturday, I told you about that altercation I got into with the guy that was potentially going to be moving into my apartment complex, where it ended up, I got physical with the guy in a defensive manner, but I was being very argumentatively in an offensive manner before the defensive physical altercation. And had I not let my emotions get the best of me and not let my manly testosterone blind me and turn me into like a feral Wolverine, I might have actually thought like Rice and the me on my practice change path, and maybe wouldn't have instigated the situation by being vulgarly offensive, which in turn made this guy want to be physically offensive. Because unfortunately, I know how to use words that just are extremely sharp and push people's buttons. And I knew what I was doing, and I shouldn't have done it. But if you can recognize those things, now at the same time, I didn't attack this guy on an offensive level or anything like that, and it ended up with him trying to he hit me lightly, and I headbutted him, and then it was done. So, but I told you how disappointed I was about that. And I had to go do a live thing 20 minutes before it happened. I got on a live stream with my friend. I'm like, hey, like 911's getting called and I might have to go deal with the police. But I know I committed to this live stream. So if I need to step away because somebody's knocking on my door, I'm just going to turn the camera off and I want to leave the Zoom up and I'll be back. But because I figured I would have to deal with the police. My neighbors saw everything that took place and they were defending me, telling the police officers that I was working doing a live stream. So they didn't even knock on my door, ask me any questions or anything, which I'm really surprised about. Surprised the guy didn't try to press charges because there were some words said and he was trying to misconstrue the words that I said, but luckily my neighbor had recorded everything because he was trying to make it out as if I was saying some kind of a racist statement. And I wasn't saying anything racist at all.
No, it always goes quickly to race when nothing about race has even been mentioned.
Yeah, and he's like trying to say, and I'm like, really? And then my neighbor says, are you serious? Because I'm recording this entire thing. So now you're telling him he said something racist when I'm recording it, and nothing like that came out of his mouth? Well, needless to say, he was, like I said, he was supposed to move into my apartment building. There's 6 apartments here, and 1 is vacant. And he's not moving in now. So
that's what I appreciate about you. You know, you're just so open to talk about these things. I mean, I've had a couple of moments in the last 6 months where, well, once publicly, I went crazy. Man asked me where was my mask. After,
oh, you pulled a Raven in McDonald's?
I did, and worse, I think. So basically, I've got to explain the full story because he was completely unreasonable, this man. So I use an app on my phone to pay for my fuel. And whenever I get out of the car, I keep my phone in my hand so that I can see once it's ready and payment ready. Because if you pick up the thing off the machine before the payment's done, then the guy in the shop has to activate the machine and you have to go inside and pay. So anyway, I did the payment. I got the notification from my bank, the money come off. I got the notification to start filling up and it wouldn't fill up. So I stand there, I look at the window, I'm like, can't see anything. Anyway, this guy eventually comes out and he says, you can't put petrol because you got your phone in your hand. I was like, oh mate, are you serious? So I tossed the phone into the car. And he started like shouting at me. I was like, I've already paid for the petrol. Why hasn't it unlocked? This is ridiculous. This is absolutely ridiculous. Anyway, put my fuel in, got into the car to check my phone to see if it was paid. It wasn't paid. So as I'm ready to get out of the car to go inside the shop to go pay for my fuel, this man comes running out with his arms stretched out in front of my car screaming, you have to pay for your petrol. I'm going to call the police. I'm like, what? You've just made me get out the car with no phone, nothing in my hands. Like, I need to get something with which to pay for my petrol. What on earth made him think I was leaving? I have absolutely no idea. Anyway, I walk into the shop and he's having words, blah, 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 blah. And he says, the next time you should wear a mask. And I turned around and screamed. I said, it's not a law, it's a mandate.
Here's what I tell people. Like, this is not an asthma inhaler. Actually, I don't even know what this inhaler is for. Maybe it's asthma, but I don't think. I just got it from a friend of mine. It was empty, and I'm like, "Hey, can I take that?" I'm like, "Why?" So I'm like, "So I can tell people I got breathing problems, so I don't have to wear a mask."
You know, is this what the point we've reached? You know, I went and ordered a card online. It's called a Sunflower Disability Card. It says mask exempt because of my hidden disability, and I walk around with that attached to my bag. And if I go into a phone with if I go into a shop just with my phone, I clip it onto my car keys. But like, is this reasonably how we should be living our lives? I want to see people.
No, I mean, I don't think it's proper, but I mean, it's obviously, I mean, we look into a lot of different interesting things. So, I mean, I try to play devil's advocate and look at all points of view. So, I mean, we've got a potential health risk with a possible true pandemic, and then we have a some sort of nefarious stuff going on.
Yes, you remind
Um,
me of
but
something.
that's, maybe, I mean, I was going to be trying to get with a couple other content creators. Me and Raven need to do something, and figure what we could have like a conversation about just this year, like kind of everybody's take on things. And I think kind of going into having because I haven't really done this much. I mean, the topics come up on some of my shows, but I'd like to do a show about COVID and just like specifically talk about everybody's thoughts and opinions and what research, what true evidence and fact based stuff that they can present to show
So I
their
think
arguments.
for me, so basically Raven and I have these kind of girl WhatsApp calls where there's 5 of us on the phone, sometimes more. They go on for hours. If you're not partaking in the conversation, you're just listening, you hit mute, carry on with what you're doing. I mean, I've cooked dinner and eaten through these calls. I've had a barbecue through one of these calls, just with my headphones in one ear, daughter in the swimming pool, barbecuing as I do, just everything on mute. And eventually we said we really need to actually do these live on YouTube and stick these calls on YouTube, because we all bring so many different things and experiences to the table. Everybody's got a story. All of our lives and all of our perspectives, especially our perspectives, are also based on our life experiences, so the conversations we have are wild. Sometimes they're serious, and very often, I mean, they're just absolute hysterics. I mean, the things that have happened this year, like how do we keep ourselves together? How do we keep ourselves in check? There's so many things that we see and we believe, and we kind of like hold out hopes, and but nothing's really real. Actually, there's just a lot of hope, and there's also a lot of doom and gloom. I mean, there's so many ways to look at these things when you actually start digging below the mainstream media. And we just try to remain positive, but then it's hard to remain positive in the world with everything that's going on. But there we are, all of us. We're like, don't lower your vibrations with all this nonsense. We're heading in a positive direction. Good things are happening. It's all going to change, and everybody's going to live happily ever after. But then back to reality, and you're just
Right.
like, what? Hold on a second. Is where's
I got a really cool suggestion, and thought about this since what you're doing, and there's nothing wrong with putting this up on YouTube. It's definitely a good thing to do. But since you're kind of focusing on the audio element, you should also look into taking the show and putting it on like an audio podcast, like I'm doing I use Anchor.fm, and it distributed on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and you can record in your application. And then the other thing is, like, if you're going to be possibly recording some of these conversations with all your lady friends, with your group, you could also be just putting that in audio format. If you have longer recordings, people tend to not spend as much time on YouTube watching a 2, 3, 4 hour long conversation, but they're more apt to do something like that
especially
with
when
an
people are
audio
on the
podcast.
go. YouTube's a lot of data, whereas I guess a podcast, I'm not a podcast.
Yeah, because you're already doing a podcast, so all you're doing is just taking the file. You got an MP3 and an MP4. You just take the MP3 and upload it, and you got a podcast already there.
So yourself into showing me what I need to do, mate.
I will, because I think that'd be a really good idea, that if you guys were going to be doing like these kind of recordings, to put them on a podcast. That way people, because the difference, like you said, when you're watching, especially if you're on your phone, if you're watching a YouTube video, your phone is staying on and the video is playing. If you're listening to a podcast, your phone can actually go into the power, like the
and
mode,
also with YouTube, if you don't have the
idle mode,
as soon as you go off the screen, it stops playing. I've got a YouTube subscription.
So Spotify, all those things will play in the background.
Got you. Thanks for the good advice, my friend.
Yeah.
Yay. Wow. Okay. So where we at?
Well, one of the things I guess I would like to mention is, since we're talking about mental health and therapy and things, like a lot of people who see my videos might, just like, and they might have noticed during this video, that I smoke cannabis. I'm a big fan of cannabis. when I smoke, I've been smoking for a long time. I'm 45. I started smoking when I was 17, and I've pretty much been smoking that entire time, and it just keeps me leveled out. I've had a very crazy upbringing. Without going into like all the details of my past, you know, whatever doesn't kill you makes you
I think
stronger.
there's a very distinct line between people. There's people who are pretty kind of well adjusted and quite mentally balanced, and they don't feel emotions. You know, you could tell them you're pregnant, you could tell them somebody passed away, and they will literally give you the same expression, the same level of tone of voice and level of excitement. I think what I appreciate about myself is that when I'm happy, boy, am I happy. You know, when I'm excited, I'm bouncing off walls. But with that goes, you know, like sad. Oh my gosh. I mean, I just can't think of people who passed away, because I will literally sit there and cry for days. And it will feel like the same day, as bad as it felt that the day they left. And that huge range of emotions, it goes with all emotions. It goes with anger, it goes with love, it goes with sadness, it goes with, it's a big round, you're a feeling kind of person, which is great, because then you can get out there, and when you feel passionate about something, you can talk and you can go mad and you can swear, and people are like, yes, I love your passion, I love it, I love it, I love it. But then when you start taking that passion home, and you're coming home and you're pissed off because there's dirty dishes, and you start crashing them and bashing them and washing them, and somebody's standing in the kitchen trying to cook dinner, you are making them feel really awkward. They don't know where to hide. You're not angry with them, but that like angry vibe just takes over the whole atmosphere, and it's not healthy. My whole thing with starting a YouTube channel is I used to be a person like that, and I had it took me about 29 years. And shall I tell you the story? My changing moment, my glorious moment was, I was a married woman getting a divorce, and my husband really showed me exactly who I was. And he took my anger to levels. He took all my emotion to levels that were absolutely extreme. I think, you know, this probably first when I had like kind of my first sense of a panic attack, where I would just actually cry so hard I could barely breathe. He could really get me worked up in so many ways. But then, I mean, I would love him as much as he would make me sad or angry. So it was a very big range of emotions. But I found myself throwing crockery around the kitchen, completely in control. I asked him to stop talking and he wouldn't listen. And I said, I'm going to continue to throw things until you just be quiet, because I don't want to talk right now. And he carried on. I think he actually wanted to watch me destroy everything. I think he was quite enjoying it. At the end of it all, he was like, oh, my wife, I love you so much. And I was just like, I want a divorce. What is going on here? We had an amazing marriage, an amazing divorce. It was an absolute wild adventure, and we're still very good friends to this day. His children actually call me often. It's very sweet. I get a video call from him.
You said an amazing divorce.
Oh, dude.
I don't think I've heard those two words together.
You know, I still need to publish this book.
Or amazing that I got divorced, maybe I heard, but not an amazing divorce. That's
in England, they have this saying, which is keep calm and carry on, which I think is very British, because everybody does. They keep calm, they carry on, they wear their mask, they quarantine, they social distance, they rule of six, they rule of this, the rule of that, they do it all. They don't make a fuss, they don't go to protest, they just do it. They're like the most obliging nation in the world. Whereas I'm from South Africa, and we are completely the opposite. But, you know, in South Africa, you wouldn't attempt going against the law because there is no law and everything's corrupt. So there in South Africa, no matter how strong your feelings are on this mask issue, you will wear a mask. Like, you will wear a mask, and you would not consider not wearing a mask, no matter how you felt, because you literally are at the mercy of corruption and police who will literally, you could disappear in that system and nobody would even ever find you again. That would be it.
Yeah, no, I've heard some stories about
this country. The mask wearing is a mandate, and nobody can even question you why you're not wearing it. The government puts on their website, if it causes you distress, do not wear it. It's something I read recently. I don't know if it's facts. I just saw it in a tweet. Apparently, £1,000 fine if anybody questions why you're not wearing a mask. Nobody can question you. They're discriminating against your disability for not being able to wear a mask. And a mask causing you distress, that is a mask disability, and you don't have to wear it, and that is everybody's excuse.
Right.
If it makes you angry and it upsets you, that is distress. Take that thing off your face. Anyway, it's been a couple of months here. I've had one incident where they wouldn't let me in without my sunflower disability card, and we were at the beach, so it was attached to my handbag, which was not with me. And I took a mask off a friend, went in, incidentally had to go back there later, which was great because I really wanted to make a point of them seeing that I actually did have the card. So I very proudly walked in and they said, "Where's your mask?" And I was like, "Here's my card. Cheers, mate." So I haven't had any trouble at all. So I think it's also how people are handling these situations. You know, if somebody asks you, "Where's your mask?" and you get all aggressive, that is when you're just asking for trouble, you know.
Yeah.
I have had no issues whatsoever. It's been a walk in the park, really, for me. No problem. But anyway, completely off track here. Completely, my friend, as we do.
It's all good. So how do we want to get back on track?
I don't know, you know.
Well, I guess one thing that I would like to say as well is like how I use cannabis as a form of therapy.
Okay, that
is what I do for me, and this doesn't work for everybody, but let me backtrack. A couple years ago, I would say about 3.5 years ago, I had what some people, and very few, but people who were close to me might have considered to be a mental breakdown. Now, I didn't end up in a hospital or anything like that. But I was functioning with whatever was going on. But I don't personally feel like I was going through a mental breakdown. I just was having some information overload moments, just going in hard with research. And then, you know, after doing that for a little bit of time, I started finding it to be unhealthy, very consuming. And what I have done, especially this year, because I've been putting out a lot more videos. In the past, I would put out an average of 3 to 4 videos a week. So 7 videos in 2 weeks, roughly 3.5 videos a week. And now, like, I'm putting out sometimes on a slow week 4, and then sometimes on a busy week up to like 7 or 8 videos. And I do a lot of research. I cover a lot of different topics. And I think that period of time when the people in my life were thinking that I had gone through a mental breakdown, our brain is a muscle. And whatever had transpired in my life at that time period just strengthened my brain. So I feel like I can take in those information, what would be normally an information overload for most people. And some people don't come back from these overloads. They kind of lose a part of themselves in a way. I don't feel like that's transpired with myself, but what I've noticed is I'll get into something and I'll go hard for maybe 2-3 weeks, sometimes 2 or 3 days, sometimes a week. It just depends. It depends on like what I'm doing, how I'm doing it, what kind of information, everything else that's going on. But ultimately, what I have to do is shut off and just detox and unwind. And sometimes that can be a 2-3 day event. Sometimes I'll take natural hallucinogenics like psilocybin and things like that, maybe once a month, once every 2 months, to work on some clarity, mental clarity, and also some things to do with spirituality. Because that, you know, I think that we all need to kind of focus on mind, body, and soul. So it's really important that people find balance and not be consumed by any of this stuff. even like, so in cryptocurrency, a lot of people, when they first get in, they're consumed by looking at the price of stuff constantly looking at the price of stuff. When you're consumed by the QAnon movement, you're constantly looking for posts, or you're constantly going in social media groups or applications and seeing what information is being put out. You can see these things that just become unhealthy to people. And so I realized that I had to be able to balance things. And I'm like a binger. So I binge on research and binge on doing videos, and I'll go hard in the paint. And then at some point, it just all kind of catches up to me, and my body lets me know it's
I'm
time.
the same. I think
Time to chill, old man. It's time to take a step back and breathe and let your brain. I'll watch mindless entertainment. I will read books. I will do nothing. I will literally do nothing sometimes, because that's sometimes the best thing I can do, is just do nothing.
I think for me, it takes me longer. I never get to the point where I say enough's enough, because I'm a mum. You know, I have to get my daughter to school and back 5 days a week. You know, but life will always inevitably, when things have got too much, inevitably something drops. Like my daughter will have like, excuse me for saying this, but a loose bowel movement at school. And they'll phone me and they'll tell me, you need to come and fetch her and keep her home for 2 days. And I'll be like, what?
You got to keep her home for 2 days because she messed herself by accident?
If they have a loose bowel, because it could be a stomach bug. And if it's a stomach bug, 48 hours before it's not contagious anymore. So yeah, you can send home for 2 days.
What if your child just admits it was just a shart? It was just
no.
You know what a shart is? I don't know. A shart's the same thing in the UK.
Yeah, no, my brothers came up with that word when we were kids, dude, you know.
Or your brothers invented that word?
Well, I mean,
just
you can't. So basically, back in that day, like there was no internet, there was nothing, you know. We had like an hour in the afternoon of kids television, you know. So they came up with a word, whether it come from their friends or where it happened, but it was quite a common word growing up in South Africa. It's obviously
I can only imagine how it was like growing up in South Africa. I just get fascinated by the culture, the stuff that I've learned just from like being a fan of like the Antwoord. The answer, yeah. Die Antwoord, as Americans like to call them. It's funny though, because they have it's something that kind of circles back around. Charlie Ward was on a video referring to me as a typical American, firing off at him, and that I was a pit bull.
You're just a lover.
And there's a really, really cool Die Antwoord song called Pit Bull Terrier. And it talks about, I am a pit bull.
Dude, if anybody's going to call you a dog, I told you, like pit bull.
I love the Afrikaans though.
Anybody could have given you, because you are like my favorite pit bull. Seriously, you've got that, but then you're just like, you are my happy place. Like, I don't have many happy places, but you're one of them. Just swing me that American accent. If you don't have time for a phone call, hit me with a voice note, and everything's all good, you know.
No, I'm glad. I told you, I'm really glad that our paths cross. It's just, I mean, obviously, I can't communicate with everybody all the time, and so sometimes it's small communications like we'll have periodically, and then sometimes I'll have like a long conversation with somebody and go for days, and then have another long conversation. So it all just depends on what I have going on, and I'm hoping sometime in the next 2.5, 3 weeks, I can actually take like a little vacation. Like I've been trying to figure out, like, can I actually take a vacation? I'd like to go to a beach. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to do that. I'm not even sure, but I need to take a little bit of time off and get away from my home.
There's a lot to be said for, number one, the power of thought. And number two, change being better than a holiday. You know, you don't even have to go far away, but just simply not sleeping in your own home just makes such a difference. Like, just
I've considered that. And there's a conference coming up too in a couple of weeks. It's on October 10th and 11th, It's called the Red Pill Expo, and that's being done by G. Edward Griffin, somebody who I've interviewed and somebody who I look up to. He wrote the book Creature from Jekyll Island, and he's actually going to be doing this conference at Jekyll Island in Georgia. And
Wow.
Jekyll Island is where between 19, if I'm correct with my numbers, 1910 and 1912, 1913 is when all the different people had met in various meetings on Jekyll Island that were rich, influential politicians, central bankers, people in the finance world, like your JP Morgans and a lot of other people's names who aren't really coming off the top of my head because I've been smoking bong heads throughout this interview. But I'm trying to go to that, and that would be a little bit of something. And I'm gonna, if I'm able to go to that, I'm going to try to go to the Georgia Guidestones as well.
Ooh.
Because I don't think they're too far from each other. Stan actually came and visited me about a month ago, and he lives in Florida and I live in North Carolina. On his way back down, he made a pit stop at the Georgia Guidestones, made a couple, took a couple little video shots. I don't think he's done anything with it yet because since he's been back home, he's been working a lot. And I think it was like really weary weather. It was between raining and very cloudy. So it wasn't like the best situation to go, but it's something I've been considering if I'm able to do the October 10th thing at Jekyll Island. Other than that, I may end up seeing two of my friends in the Phoenix, Arizona area. And if I don't do that, then I'm probably not going to be able to do anything until next year. I don't know.
Well, a friend of mine, Charlotte, she keeps nagging me to go and gate crash Stonehenge. She's like, we need to go and do some energy work there. I'm like, I don't know what energy work is, but I'm going to come up for the ride.
I've heard that's not really a positive place. As actually V had told me a little bit more about that. She was telling me about, I don't know the name, how it's spelled. Let me see if I can figure it out before I even try to mispronounce it. Yeah, cool. Calanesh stones?
No idea, mate.
Calanay stones?
No idea. But I think she wants to get in there and do some healing energy. But they've closed it off. You can't even get there. I went there a couple of years ago, but I recently drove past and they've closed off the whole thing off the road. There's nowhere to stop. I mean, you've got to go to some tourist center and take some bus over. I mean, it's a whole big but they're on the side of the main highway. You can see them, drive straight past them, take a couple of pictures. But she's always wanted me to go crash Stonehenge and do some healing energy work over there. Anyway, I'm going to be getting her onto the show one of these days, nail her down for an interview. I've reached a stage now where, I love fascinating people like this, people who can just talk about things that are so totally out of my kind of realm, and it's beautiful. These youths, every now and then you've gone into some kind of crypto tangent and I have absolutely no idea what you're talking about, but I smile along the way. Sometimes I pretend to know what you're talking about when I don't.
I try. I mean, that's why I've been trying not to. I mean, I really don't try to talk as much crypto. It's come up because of some things that you brought up, and I'm not going to go into your private life.
Oh, for sure. But like our conversations always get wherever they need to be. I think like living in the moment is just great. Everything happens for a reason, and I'm big on that. I'm big on that one. Like we are always where we're meant to be. You're like, no, not on this occasion. I'm like, no, on every occasion. It's all right. It's always just all right. It's just exactly how it's meant to be. Funny, I actually had an interview last night, and I phoned the person in it was 9:00 my time. Phoned them in the afternoon, really hoping that they couldn't make it. I was like, you're right, you're good, thanks. Listen about later. Yeah, all good, I'm on. I was like, oh, okay, well, I'm really tired. I'm going to have a nap and make sure I'm nice and fresh and ready to talk to you. Anyway, get a call later on that evening. Listen, I can't make it. But I was in a three-way. I was trapped in a three-way.
You was trapped in a three? That sounds really dirty.
I got dragged into a three-way.
Sounds dirty.
I found out what it was like to be on a fly on two people's walls whenever they have really long and deep and meaningful conversations.
You're talking about three ways and long and deep. Like, what are we talking about here?
We'll talk about it later. Call me when we stop recording.
I just, obviously, you know how my brain works. I get, I like to be sarcastic at times. So
I felt like
and you always say the funniest combination of words that make it sound like you're saying something dirty, but you're not saying anything dirty.
Yeah, no, I think there's something wrong with you. Really, it's definitely you, not
me. Do we need to talk about your dong
audience.
obsession? We could talk about your dong obsession, okay? Because you're all about that dinar dong, and yeah, we're
not talking about the dong, not tonight. This is not a dong conversation.
But it makes an example of how you say things that have lots of meanings that could be misconstrued for something else. So when you have a three-way and you're talking about something being long and deep,
jeez. Wow,
all I did was just take a couple words from what you said and just like, turn it in. Yeah.
Can't even whistle. I'm like laughing so much.
You're actually therapy for me because I just like to totally mess with you and stuff like that.
Come on, out together, boy, out together.
You're gonna tonight before you go to bed, you're just gonna be obsessing of why you're such a pervert. Subconsciously a pervert and don't realize it.
I appreciate you so very much. Perfect. Last thing I would ever call you, dude. You're like,
and obviously people know I'm a sarcastic asshole, so you're not really a pervert, but I just think it's funny to say that. You know, with recent age, we have to be very careful about what we say. I actually said something to you earlier on the phone, and you. I won't even repeat. I won't even joke about that one.
You know, and I was like, oh gosh, you know, I do actually have to be careful what I say. We have to tread lightly in this crazy world that we're living in. But I was trying to tell you a story, and you got completely sidetracked into some gutter on some dirty street, back alley, you know.
Let's get back to the three-way. I'm sorry. The three-way and the fly on the wall.
Yes. So anyway, the person who dragged me into the three-way was like, hey, listen, I can't make it tonight. I was like, oh, thank God. And they were like, what? I was like, thank goodness. I'm so tired. I just want to go and sleep. I really seriously just want to go and sleep. I'm so tired. They're like, no, you idiot. I'm just joking. What is wrong with you? And I was like, oh my word. And this was on a three-way, and they were both kind of like, what's wrong with you? I'm like, guys, I'm not this big old public person, you know, public talker. Like, I really just enjoy my evenings at home alone. Once my daughter's gone to bed, doing my thing, you know. Anyway, that's
where the podcast would be good for you. If you don't like to be like public and you don't like to show your face and stuff, which I respect, that's where I think something like, unless you're like showing news articles or something like that, that's where I think you'd have more success, more listeners, more interactions if you go the audio route, you know, but obviously keep doing the YouTube channel.
Well, I think people like to see my guests, like your lovely face. We had M. Seeker's Truth the other night, his lovely face. You know, I got to witness him touching up his hair before we started recording. It was a great moment. You know, I enjoy watching you guys, but I'll be honest with you. For me personally, I think number one, my voice is my voice. I need to be careful of my life. I'm a single parent. I've got a daughter. I'm a mother. You know, I'm not out here trying to do anything crazy. I'm out here literally trying to speak to people about mental health and how to deal with things. You know, I mean, now we're getting to know each other and introducing people, and I think ultimately these are conversations we'll need to do quite frequently, you know, to get to the point of where we actually like helping people to be like, put things into boxes, what's real, what's not. You know, we have to live in the very real right now. We can't let our minds travel too far with all these theories of all these things. There's too many theories. Look into them, but just keep in the real, keep into the now. Do your job, make sure there's money in the bank, pay your bills, and just focus on you as much as possible. If you're doing all these things, covering all these bases, there's always money in the bank, there's always food in the fridge, there's, you know, never a moment when you sort of kind of like feeling really financially stressed. then you can start thinking about investing in certain things. Like, I just want to bring everybody back to ground. I've seen too many people who can't afford to be investing into things are investing their money, taking the food off their table, you know, constantly stressed. Where's the next, you know, grocery money going to come from? And I just want everybody to just stick in the real the now, because things are bumpy. And I do believe things are going to get a little bit more bumpier before they start getting easier. But even when they do start getting easier, it's not going to just happen overnight. You know, we need to take care of our lives, and we need to take care of everything that's going on with ourselves right now. And that is just really one of my biggest messages to people. You know, we have to be taking care of these adult responsible things. You know, I'm looking at people who are 40s, 50s, even their 60s, you know, been hanging on to like crazy hope for things to be changing for so long, goes on 10, 15 years, even longer than that, 20, you know. In the meantime, they're not looking after the here and now, you know. And if you're not looking after here and now, you're constantly stressed and living in a state of stress. I can tell you firsthand, single parent, my daughter's dad unfortunately passed away when she was very young, 9 months old. I've done it alone for over 7 years now, and it does get stressful. And there are months where you just think, oh gosh, actually, am I going to make it? And thank God, you know, I always make it out, sometimes by the skin of my teeth, but I get out of it quite safely, mostly. Very blessed in that way. But it is stressful, and to be living in a state of stress, you're not being your best you're not giving people as much patience as you should be, you're not giving them as much love as you should be. You know, it's when you're distracted and you're thinking about other things, everybody around you is seeing a different version of yourself, and that's really a version of me I try to avoid. You know, my daughter was 2.5 years old, and I moved entire countries with her, you know, packed up one house, shipped it all over here, new school, new nursery. You know, it's been a long, stressful ride, and I think it only started taking its toll when she was 5 years old, where I stopped and realized, like, oh my gosh, like, what have I actually accomplished here? And I don't often kind of sit down and think I feel proud of myself or I've done well. You know, it's not me or my personality at all. I'm not very egotistical in any kind of way like that. And I just like, wow, actually, when you think about it all, it's been a lot. And that was when I started realizing I needed to take care of my own mental health a little bit more. I needed to check out more often. I needed to stop running from here to there, seeing so many people with every single day, play dates after school, gymnastics, swimming lessons, ballet lessons, piano lessons. Oh my gosh, I just started cutting them all one by one, you know, the ones that weren't quite working for us. And eventually I was like, there's going to be 1 or 2, swimming and ballet. Ballet didn't work out. They changed it from a Tuesday to a Saturday. I was like, ballet's cancelled, swimming only. That's it. And now with the coronavirus, I've had to cancel that as well. You know, your kids have to arrive in their swimming gear ready to go. We go straight from school to swimming. We sit there, have something to eat, go to the change room, get changed for swimming. Now what are we going to do? Go get changed in the car, bring a child out of a swimming lesson into freezing cold with a wet swimming costume on. You change your kid in the car before you go home, or do you just drive them home in a wet costume? I mean, it's a circus. The whole place has got it in one entrance, out the other. So no matter where you park, you're going to be walking miles either way to get in or to get out of the building. Both entrance and exit on different levels. I mean, it's insanity. I phoned them up. I was like, listen, guys, I'm sorry. Please cancel. I'm not getting involved in any of that. And that's how I have personally learned to handle my triggering, is by just cutting things out. And it's unfair for my daughter that I'm not prepared to do that, but I'm sorry, I can't go sit in a hot, sweaty, heated swimming pool area with a mask on my face, you know. And I'm not entirely comfortable sitting there being the only parent who hasn't got a mask on their face. You know, I'm okay doing my grocery shopping like that, but, you know, not in that sort of environment. And ultimately I will get triggered, and in the end it's just not a very healthy situation to be getting myself into. So I just try to cut these like little things out as I go along. You know, like sometimes I'll be driving and I'll be like, feel really kind of overwhelmed and sort of like, what's going on? And I feel like I'm getting lost and I'm not following Google Maps right. And then I'll be like, hold on a second, my daughter's trying to talk to me over the loud song that we've got playing, and like everything is just kicking off. I'll be like, okay, first thing, darling, hold on, mommy needs to just pay attention, turn down the volume, look at the map, make sure we're on track. And once I've had that like minute of silence to make sure everything's on track, I'll be like, yes, my love, how can I help you? You know?
Right.
And you're driving on this road which has got a variable speed limit, and you're going down from 70 miles down to 60, down to 40, down to 20 because there's an obstruction in the road, and then there's no obstruction, and oh my gosh, you know, like just completely overwhelmed by life, I guess, you know. And then add the fact that somebody's phoning you into the midst of all of it and you can't see your map now because you've got a call coming through. I mean, life can just get on top of you sometimes, and either you're the person who just remains completely calm no matter what life throws at you, or maybe you're like me, maybe you're like Chris, maybe you're like some of my other friends, because all my friends seem to have this wild flaming passion, you know. It's beautiful when you're passionate about something, but when you are pissed off about something, it's not a beautiful thing, is it, my friend?
It depends. And I guess, before we wrap things up, that would be the last thing I would like to say about anger. There is nothing wrong with anger. It's the problem is how you react to said anger, how you let it affect you, how you let it affect other people. Because you can effectively be fueled in a negative way, but it also can help to strengthen and justify what you're doing too. So it's just very important to consider that, I think. What do you think?
I think you're awesome, dude.
Yeah, I mean, because if we think about the fact that anger itself is bad or negative and that we shouldn't feel anger, that's not really a possibility. Like my whole thing with practice change is practice. That's the key word. When you practice doing something, you make mistakes, you learn, you become better. Maybe you don't know how to bowl, you start practicing. Maybe you end up becoming a professional bowler one day. It's when you start practicing something and you're mindful of what you're doing, it's a lot of things can take place in your life and change. That's why I try to encourage people to walk that path. And again, anger is just an emotion. It's like love. It's like sadness. It's how are you going to let it affect you? Are you like when you're sad about something? Are you one of those people that goes and jumps in your bed, covers up, and hides for days and just doesn't deal with reality?
No.
Or are you one of those people who don't let the sadness affect you? So it's you got to look at how you're letting that anger, how you're reacting to the anger, and how it's affecting other people. Because you can let it be used for a good purpose, but it can also, and this tends to be the normal case, and this was my case in the past, was I used to be fueled by anger. I think we've spoken about this off the record, but I've been fueled by anger where I needed that anger to keep me going. Just kind of, like I was always just aggressive in a very selfish, me. I'm looking out for me only. It wasn't until I had my daughter born that I really had to for the first time, even though I love other people and cared about other people, I wouldn't have ever given my life for other people. Not my mom, not my dad, not my brothers or sisters. I just didn't have that in me at the time. It was something that changed in me that it's like, wow, this is something that I would actually be willing to sacrifice myself for. So it's just taking it's you can't take out parts of humanity and still be human. So it's just how you embrace and tackle all these emotions and how you let it affect you. Because if you can also, it goes the same way. You could be so happy that you end up being an arrogant asshole.
Oh yeah, totally. But then that's not real either. And anger is, you're right, it's vital. And it's, as I say, it's, some people just have a huge range of all emotions. It's not like you're going to have a range of a couple of these emotions and not the others aren't going to affect you as drastically. And it is something but it's something that needs to be contained. You need to recognize, and you've recognized, I've recognized, we have to, we do need to contain it, and there's a time and place for everything.
Yeah, my shit was, before we go, last thing I'll show, and I don't really talk about this kind of stuff, but since it's appropriate for this video, I told you when I get into any kind of physical altercation, I like to use my elbows or my head because I have a hard head. because I've broken my hand so many times. If you look at my knuckles, like this hand is normal. See how my knuckles are? Can you see like where my knuckle on my pinky is dislocated? So it's
your
on this
hands are
hand.
completely deformed.
Yeah, it's called a boxer fracture. So this part, my knuckles is right here.
Ugh.
Well, right here. And, that's from beating my hand into walls, hitting people. And that's where I've done some things when I was younger that I wasn't necessarily proud of. Some of those were defending other people. Some of them were me being an asshole and just, causing whatever happened. But I learned from that. And that's the important thing. I learned from the mistakes that I made, and I'm trying to progress. And then another last thing, the reason I did practice change and made it a public thing was because in my life, there's been a lot of times that because of my anger, I would be laying there just fed up with myself, hating myself, but didn't want to end my own life. So it's like, what am I going to do? How am I going to move forward? And how am I going to not let myself be my own worst enemy and hold me down? And so that was a lot to really take in and it's a hard pill to swallow.
I've been there as well, and it almost becomes like an addictive cycle. And only once you've broken it.
Every time I would have those moments and be like, I need to change my life because I realize I'm the common denominator here. I'm the problem and I need to fix this. As I would do this and things would start getting better, I would stop focusing on working on the things that I was working on because I kind of achieved what I wanted to achieve. And then what happens is I fall back into a routine. Then it goes into a cycle.
Exactly. My soulmate, my friend. You're my soulmate, my brother from another mother. Exactly.
So it's just a matter of breaking those cycles and realizing, what's going on and just being conscious of it.
I think people don't realize they can actually break those cycles and that they can be not an angry person.
We are our own worst enemy 100%. And when people totally recognize that and they can face themselves. So then I went ahead and made practice change, started my YouTube channel and talk about the practice change thing all the time, because now I have to be accountable. I can't get comfortable. I can't get comfortable. Yeah. Now I've got to walk the walk. I got to do it. I've made myself have to do this by putting it out so publicly. So I would have to have somebody to be accountable to, because I couldn't be accountable to myself.
Well, I think, that's another one of the things which I just love about you. And if anybody searches practice change on Twitter, they'll see I've probably tweeted it more often than you have, my friend.
Well, I ask other people to use it. It's not.
I do love it, and
it's not me. It's us, and I just want to encourage other people, because it's not like a program that has like a regimen. It's a different path for everybody, but it's got the same end result.
Totally, and I've been
a better you.
I've been practicing the change for 10 years because I used to be like you too, in this angry cycle. And at night I'd get into bed and I'd be like, another entire day that I've been pissed off. And one pissed off thing after another pissed off thing happens. And eventually getting stuck in traffic makes you rage. Spilling coffee makes you rage. Everything just makes you so angry. And if anybody says, how are you? You'll be like, really? I'm actually pissed off. Why? What happened? I spilled my coffee. I got caught in traffic. This and that and blah, blah, blah. And the person's like, holy shit, I just asked this person how they are. Like, oh, get me out of here. And I had no idea how that was, I never really stopped and thought, how does that make the other person feel? And now that I've had 10 years of practice change, I am so extra susceptible to people's rage, because as soon as they start making me feel awkward or uncomfortable to be around them because they're raging about stuff, I remember how I must have made people feel like over 10 years ago when I used to do similar things.
That's they're not angry with you.
They're just raging, And I try, I have got some friends who every now and then I will kind of I'll let things slide ever so slightly, because every now and then you do need to get things off your chest, but you're not getting, you shouldn't be doing this too frequently. You know, nobody needs to listen to why you're so pissed off and blah, blah, blah all the time.
Obsessively,
You know,
obsessively.
totally.
Yeah. You can vent and get things off your chest.
I have one friend in particular. She's the most amazing listener. She's just so awesome. You can talk to her about anything. She's like the only person I really trust to have just like a proper good old moan and be like, actually, do you know what? This is bugging me. That's bugging me. But I'm over it. But it's good to talk about it. And thanks for listening. And she's just like, oh, you know, I'm always here for you. And everybody needs that one person. But I think what people need to struggle to define that there's some people who see you at your worst and there's others who don't. Not everybody needs to see you at your worst, you know. I always go back to the kind of 100%. If you've got 100% of your passion or your anger or anything, especially when it comes to kind of your anger, your mom and the people closest to you, they should be seeing around 70% of that. You need to save that extra 30% for when you're by yourself and you're in your quiet zone and you just got that raging on inside you. Nobody needs to see that. And general public, they need to be getting 50%, because if general public are getting anything above 50%, people might start being a little bit concerned about your mental stability, you know. But we're passionate people, and when we're talking about something we're passionate, we get extra passionate. But there's a fine line between spreading anger and spreading passion, and that's where the you know, some people get it right and some people get it so wrong, and that's what we're here to talk about. But anyway, I think it's time to probably wrap this one up.
Yeah, so we definitely I definitely gotta bounce, but we gotta do this again.
Of course we have to do this again, you know. I mean, I schedule in my social calls, so I may as well just schedule in a Zoom call and make sure you're free for an hour, you know.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm going to be working on some things where I'm trying to slow down a little bit on my content and be putting out around 4 to 5 videos a week. And then,
no, you need to take time out, my friend.
Because there's things too that I need to be focusing on. That it's all work related, but there's a lot of things I need to focus on as far as it takes a lot of work. That's not video stuff. So I want to be kind of shifting gears a little bit. And I have been totally slacking on my audio podcast. So I need to kind of get that kind of going back a little bit. And then in addition to that, I just even my Patreon
you have to be
channel.
coaching me how to do the audio podcast stuff.
Yeah, but I mean, I started it and I've got episodes. I've just been trying to build it, and then I got distracted by all this extra research because, as you can see, like it was all the Russell J. Gould stuff, the Christopher James stuff, the Jesse Casanova, talking to people like David Straits, trying to connect with all these other people. And in addition to all the other stuff I cover, it's just been a lot going on, and I haven't had time to. I barely have had time, you know, like I had to take a couple of days off and detox, which, you know, you were aware of, because otherwise I would have probably lost my mind. So yeah, that's where we're at. So
got to be done, my friend.
But
thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule. It's always an absolute pleasure speaking to you. And I almost forget sometimes that we actually do have people potentially listening to this or watching us. So we send them a big heart. I'm giving hearts too, but I'm in my pajamas. So I just, you know, I'm not sharing the real life hearts.
I'm usually wearing shorts or pajama pants, and I got flip flops and socks on. Like really, people hate it.
Well, you're a boy, you know, you could just swing on a t-shirt and throw a cap over your head and you're done and dusted, you know?
Yeah.
Anyway, right, it's been a pleasure. Everybody out there, take care, you know, keep it real, try stick in the now, you know, the aliens may exist, but like, let's be real, guys, come on. Same goes for clones, synthetics, you know where we're at.